Hey guys, what up? It's Jack and welcome back to another video. So remember when you guys were telling me that one of your biggest concerns with XDefiant was Ubisoft? Well, it turns out that you might very possibly be right. Now, you guys obviously are more familiar with Ubisoft and their history than I am, but you guys have been quick to tell me that one of your biggest concerns ever since I started making XDefiant videos was Ubisoft's track record, so to speak, right? The publisher themselves. Well, according to a little video or stream that I saw from XDefiant Guides, he did a little bit of digging or whatnot, and it looks like Tom Henderson, who's an industry insider, and he's very, very credible and very respected because ever since the days of COD, even before Modern Warfare 2019, he was leaking all sorts of info about the game or whatnot that ended up to be true, as well as some other games, but at the time it was mainly COD or whatnot, and everything turned out to be true, and his track record speaks for itself over the years with Call of Duty games. And with XDefiant, as of more recently, he had made a tweet saying that he doubts that the game will come out at this month, but he could be wrong. Well, there's additional elaborations that I've discovered through XDefiant Guides, and I'm going to leave a link to the video and or stream in the description below, so you guys can see for yourself, because he did digging. He found some tweets or whatnot, or some response to some tweets. And basically, long story short, what was discovered is that actually the game was actually supposed to be out 2 weeks ago. The game was actually supposed to be out 2 weeks ago, and those trophies that got leaked from the game actually were legit. It wasn't fake, it was legit, and the game was actually set to release 2 weeks ago. Now, why didn't it release? The reason is because Ubisoft has been demanding the devs of XDefiant to basically add more content into the game, right? So think of it as this way. Think of it as let's say you're in high school, right? And imagine your PE coach basically saying, okay, we're going to run a mile today. All you got to do is run four laps around the track and you're done. Right. And then once you get to the end of that fourth lap, the coach says, yeah, we're going to add in another lap. And then you're about to get done with that lap, and the coach is like, you know what, we're going to add one more lap, and so on and so forth. Until the coach is satisfying, he keeps on adding pressure, right? Originally, it was 4 laps, and then now it ended up being more, right? So the devs have been asking, have been actually putting pressure, or excuse me, the publisher's been putting pressure onto the devs to add in more content to the game. Now, obviously, I'm all about more content, but here is the issue. The one thing that Tom Henderson had mentioned was that the devs seem to be butting heads with Ubisoft. Now, are they butting heads because the devs just want the game to come out and Ubisoft is saying add more content into the game, which is causing further delays and potential other bugs and stuff like that? Absolutely, that could be a reason. However, history has taught me time and time again, thanks to good old Activision, as I say that jokingly, obviously, that publishers care about the money, and that is the only language that they understand, and that is what they do. And they even go as far as to reach their hand into the creative process and basically say, you know, we want you to do this, even though these guys are not creators and have probably never been creators. They just care about the money and maximizing profits, even if that means sacrificing the quality of the game. I've said this time and time again, and I'm sure some of you guys remember me saying it time and time again. Now, so it is very possible, with your guys' concern about Ubisoft, that Ubisoft is basically asking them to do a few things that the developers don't agree with. Because if they're butting heads and if they're not getting along or whatnot, right, and if there's some sort of argument or something like that or disparity going on behind the scenes, guess what? The game is open to having problems that it wouldn't have had in the first place because of it. Because if the developers had a certain vision and a way that they wanted their game built, what would be in the game, what would not be in the game, and then all of a sudden, the publisher, right before you get to release your game, basically says, oh, we want you to add in more content into the game, and this is what we want you to add in. And it has nothing to do with your vision and in terms of what you wanted in the game, if not the opposite of what you wanted in the game. Guess what? All of a sudden, of course, you're going to bump heads. So this is where problems actually start to arise in a lot of games. And if this is true, now granted, there hasn't been anything official stated by Mark Rubin or Ubisoft themselves as of right now. I'm guessing they're just, having their heads down really, they got their heads down really deep to try to still get the game released by March 31st, if not before March 31st, obviously. But if all this information is true, then, well, it is unlikely that the game will release in the March window. It still may, but at the same time, it may not. But at the end of the day, remember, guys, it's not necessarily the dev's fault. If the what's it called? If the publisher keeps on giving them more and more things to do, of course it's going to cause problems. Of course it's going to cause delays, and of course it could cause potential instabilities with the game, even with the vision of the game itself in terms of what the developers had originally planned on doing. All things when it comes to games, guys, are subject to change. The no skill-based matchmaking that Mark Rubin had said, all of that is subject to change. If one of the higher ups say, no, we changed our mind, we want you to put in skill-based matchmaking in the game, guess what? It's all subject to change. This happens in every facet of life, unfortunately, right? You can't really take everything as a guarantee, right? So unfortunately, this is where I have to say that I am getting worried, and it's got nothing to do with the delay itself. I mean, I don't mind if the game gets delayed another month or two, and I know a lot of you pretty much hated hearing me say that, but I honestly don't. If the game ends up being better for it, and if the true vision of the game ends up being better for it because of it, then that's great. But the thing is, the game was ready to release according to all this info here. The game was ready to release 2 weeks ago, and it didn't happen because the publishers wanted additional features into the game. The question is, what are those features? And as we know, what they care about is the bottom dollar. When it comes to publishers, they care about the bottom dollar. So what is it? Pay to win weapons? Is it additional battle pass features? Is it more things for the store? Like, what are these features, right? Activision considers all that stuff features, right? But we all know that it's not. I highly doubt that the guys over at Ubisoft, the higher ups at Ubisoft, are basically telling Mark Rubin, the devs, like, hey, you guys need to have the prestige system ready by launch. Or, hey, 24 weapons at launch isn't enough, and 14 maps at launch isn't enough. We want you guys to add in at least another 5 or 6 maps by release, an additional 10 weapons, and et cetera, et cetera. I seriously doubt they're doing that. I seriously doubt they're saying, hey, you guys need, 2 or 3 more game modes in there. You guys need to make sure rank play is more sophisticated than what it is. I seriously doubt that they're saying that. All those guys know is money, and if they want something and or features that revolve around money. I hope I'm wrong, but again, you can't ignore the historic facts, just like you guys have been telling me about Ubisoft, just like I can't ignore the historic facts about what happened with Activision and other publishers and developers that have been doing this shit with games. So it's like, yeah, I'm officially worried about XDefiant now, in terms of what we were promised, and we might not get what we were promised, guys. We really may not, at least not entirely. And I guess we can thank Ubisoft for that if that ends up being the case. But only time will tell. And when the game does officially release, we will know. We will know. And if Mark Rubin basically goes radio silent, it's simply because of the fact that Ubisoft has probably told him to go radio silent. And if you start to see developers starting to disappear in terms of like who were developing this game, and all of a sudden they're gone and they're not a part of that team anymore, that's another red flag right there, especially if that one person happens to be Mark Rubin, or if that other person happens to be Aches, the Call of Duty player, the former Call of Duty player, that is pro player, that is helping them develop this game. If those guys disappear from the scene, those are really big red flags, guys. So if anything, keep a lookout for that. But these are my thoughts on the whole matter, and let's just hope that in terms of what I think and how deep this rabbit hole goes, let's just hope I'm wrong, and let's just hope it's just a couple of additional features, things like maps and game modes and stuff like that. But I hate to sound pessimistic, but that is unlikely. So with that being said, I want to know down in the comment section what you guys think of this ordeal. Don't forget to check out XDefiant Guides' video that I'll leave in the description below, so you guys can check that out. And with that being said, I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to watch and or listen, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.